speaking, of course, of Bobby Gross. And, Bobby, I'm sure this a day that caused probably a lot of reflection for you and maybe some smiles, some sadness, all mixed into one. Your feelings today on hearing of the passing of your great former coach, Dr. Jack Ramsay.
Well, it was a sad day for me. I knew it was coming. I was informed, not too long ago that he was in hospice and that he wasn't doing well. So, if you're in hospice, it's best not to be there too long. And so I was grateful the fact that he probably didn't suffer long if he was suffering at all. And, I must have had a couple dozen texts and emails and phone calls from people today wishing me their regrets that I lost my coach, and I keep telling them that he was a great man. More than just a coach, he was a great man.
Bobby, you came in as a rookie under Lenny Wilkins as your first year. Your second year, Dr. Jack took over. What was different? I mean, you guys won a championship in just your second season, his first season as a head coach. What was the difference between your first year and that first year under Dr. Jack?
Well, there was a number of things that came together. We got some players in that fit his system. Maurice, Dave Twardzik, a bunch of other guys, Herm and Corky, and a rookie named Johnny Davis. But what made him such a great coach was that he was so organized and planned every detail of a practice. I don't know. You've never played for him, Tone, did you?
No. He retired just before I got to the NBA.
Yeah, and he was. He was always prepared no matter what. It didn't matter if it was a game or a practice or if you wanted to sit down and talk to him, he was prepared to do whatever he had to do to make the team better.
Basketball purist, Bob, always loved watching your team play because you guys played as a team. You shared the ball. You didn't care who got the credit for success, all the elements and great qualities that make basketball fun to watch. And as we were talking about earlier in the show with current Trail Blazers head coach Terry Stotts, who has admired Dr. Jack and said that the ultimate tribute for him would be for anybody to say that his current Trail Blazers team reminds them, even in a small way, of the great Blazer teams that you played on, coached by Dr. Jack. Do you see some similarities as you watch this current edition of Trail Blazers with the teams that you played on? Granted, a different era, but maybe some similarities in terms of the way this team tries to go about its business.
Well, yeah, in the sense that they want to share the ball and they're willing to share the ball, yes. And at times we had the same problem ourselves. Sometimes we shared too much. Sometimes you got to take that open shot, and I know for myself and a bunch of other guys that it was contagious, passing the ball in his system. And I see a little bit of that with this team. Occasionally you want them to take that shot, and they fake, and then they pass it instead of shooting it when they're open. And I'm sure that's attributed to Terry and the fact that he's got them all playing together and wanting to win and doing whatever it takes to win.
We just talked about it, Bobby. I never had a chance to play for Dr. Jack, but one of the things that stood out to me whenever I talked to him or saw him, he was always calm. Now, I know as a player under him, you probably got some fiery times, but he always seemed to have a command of himself and his unit. I mean, I look at head coaches as the general in an army, and their job is to always have control of their unit, and he always seemed to be that way.
Well, he was always, he never yelled and screamed at us. He loved to yell and scream at the officials, though, like most coaches. And I can remember, I think it might have been the year we won the championship. We had to have a meeting with him saying, hey, you got to stop yelling at the coaches. I mean, the referees so much, Jack. They're taking it out on us. And you know what? He stopped. He understood that that's what we wanted as a team, and he held back. He didn't get on them. The first time they made a bad call, he'd be on them the rest of the game and wouldn't let them forget. Now, from that point on, he did his best, to not do that, and I think it did help us.
It's funny because what I'm hearing is the true definition of a player's coach. That term gets thrown around a lot, especially in this current era, but it seems like even back then, that coach that could get the team to understand that he was buying into them and he needed them to buy into him is always going to lead to some level of success.
It did. He he was somebody that would take the time to talk to everybody on the team. I can remember distinctly, we started practice with a talk. He'd sit us down and he'd talk about the practice, what was going on, and how important it was for everybody to be ready to play. And he had everybody that wasn't playing ready to play when it was time. He was very good at making you understand your role. Everybody talks about that, but he really did. He did have everybody on the same page.
It's interesting, Bob, we were talking earlier about, in this particular series, Blazers and the Rockets, how Houston started out the series by saying that, hey, we're thinking championship. We want to be the last team left standing. And Terry Stotts told us earlier, I'm not going to run from expectations. I'm not going to run from, hopes that people might have about what this postseason can ultimately be for this particular Trailblazers team. But when did you know, and how did you maybe as a group, did you have to walk that fine line a little bit? I mean, you guys were in the playoffs for the first time in the franchise's history, and you go on to win a championship. Was there some point in that postseason when you said, you know what, we maybe got a chance to win this whole thing? Or was it something that just kind of evolved as you continue to win games and advance series to series?
I think it was a realization after we won the second series against Denver. We knew that we were up against LA, but we'd had some success against them, and we felt like that if we could win a game in LA, we could find ourselves in the finals. And of course, we won all four of them. But it was a gradual belief in ourselves. It was a young team, very young team actually, and a new coach, bunch of new players. And I know that there was no pressure on us because nobody expected us to do anything, much like this team here.
It's funny when I hear you talk about it, I'm seeing a reflection of the team that the Blazers are putting out on the floor this year. They don't have a lot of expectation, but the thing that's always stood out to me, and I've been been around the league not as long as you have, Bobby, but a long time. When teams have cohesion, when they believe that we're all in this together, that I am going to fight hard, but you're going to fight just as hard, good things tend to happen.
That's true, and we had a group that was very comfortable together. Back in those days, as you know, Tone, we would travel on commercial airlines, and coaches and the players sat together, and we had a lot of good bonding time together. We didn't hop on the plane afterwards and fly off, so we ended up spending a lot of time together, and that team came together very quickly, and we all understood that if we did our job, we had a chance of winning a game.
I heard, and Rich Patterson, the captain, saved, and it was great to hear earlier today, the pregame show before the sixth and final game of the finals that year when you ultimately won the championship, the Jack Ramsay show, and Sean's doing the interviewing, and Jack he reflected back on when he took the job that he went out to visit with each and every player, he said, for hour to 2 hour meetings individually to kind of give his expectations, hear what you guys had to say and so forth about the season ahead. What do you remember about the meeting that he had with you, and did you get a feeling at that meeting that, this is a guy that's pretty organized, he's got a definite plan to make us successful, and did it maybe make you feel more confident about the season that you were about to undertake with him?
I think a little bit. I didn't my rookie season. I got to play a little bit towards the end of the season. I got to play quite a bit towards the end of the season. So I knew that I could play with these people, the guys that were in the league. And when Lenny got released, they said they hired Jack Ramsay. And to be honest with you, I didn't know who he was. I knew that he was the coach in Buffalo, but I had no idea. About the man, or who he was, or what he was about. So my first meeting with him was during the summer before fall camp. And he told me that he was looking at me maybe to start for the team, and I was actually pretty surprised after my rookie season. I didn't get to play that much. So he must have seen something in my play, when we played against Buffalo, because he came from Buffalo. That he liked, and encouraged me to work hard, and that he was going to give me a good look, and he thought that I'd be a good fit for his system. And at that point, I was very excited about coming to training camp. I knew I would get a shot.
He was obviously very astute in that observation. That's for sure. Well, Bobby, I know it's been a day that you've probably had you've done a lot of talking, a lot of reflecting, and we appreciate the fact that you shared some of your thoughts about Dr. Jack with us today, and we look forward to seeing you around the Moda Center. Hopefully, the next time will be the start of the next series of the
I hope
postseason.
so. Hopefully, we see each other a whole lot here soon.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for the visit tonight. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you, guys.
Bobby Gross, he was definitely a starter and definitely an impactful player. People still talk about the job he did. You know, we mentioned Wesley Matthews and the job he does on James Harden, who gets his points, but, great players having to make them work for the points they get. People still talk about what Bobby Gross did in his defense of Julius Erving in that championship series to enable the Blazers to come from 2 games to none down to win in 6 games for that championship back in 1977. We're remembering it all with, of course, the thought today about the passing of Dr. Jack Ramsay.
We should invite those guys to the parade after the Blazers win the championship.
Something tells me they would come.
I bet they would.
And they would be warmly received, I'm sure. It would be a melding of the past and present, and that's something that we've been always trying to do, to collect the great memories of the early days of Rip City to now the new days of Rip City as well.